This episode of our This Week in XR podcast is sponsored by Zapper. Zapper is one of the world's leading XR companies. Over the past 12 years, they've won numerous awards for memorable campaigns. They've democratized AR by making tools and SDKs that anyone can use. And they created ZapBox, the world's most affordable mixed reality headset. Most recently, Zapper worked with Unilever to create an enhanced QR code called Accessible QR, which enables packaged goods to speak to the blind and partially sighted. If you're thinking XR, give the team at Zapper a call or visit zapper.com to see how they can help you on your XR journey. Good morning, everybody. I'm Charlie Fink with Ted Schilowitz and Roni Abovitz for This Week in XR. It's November 8th, 2024. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Morning.
Well, it's been quite a week, and I don't think we have anything to say that hasn't been said or won't be said. So I don't want to dwell on things, but I do think it's worth discussing the tech part of it. Because
Agree.
So I don't want to get into anything other than the tech part of it. And I think it's really interesting. Andreessen went early for Trump. Zuckerberg quasi went for Trump and has had several conversations with him during the campaign. So, they bet big on Trump. Andreessen, Horowitz, Peter Thiel. I mean, there are lots of other people who
Elon
bet on
Musk.
Paris.
Elon Musk guy.
Elon most notably. And, Elon's got billions of dollars of government contracts. So, this is the tech takeover of the government. And what's more, I would add, there'll be no regulation of crypto. There'll be deregulation of crypto. There will be no regulation of AI. There will be no climate legislation, and whatever Biden did will be reversed. And this the stock market went up 1,300 points, mostly, by the way, driven by tech stocks.
So Charlie and Ted, let me give you guys in the battlefield tech CEO view.
Please.
From hearing from everyone, an investing world, other CEO friends. I think what's interesting is that I think there'll be about a 1-year honeymoon period where the tech world is exuberant and think it's a field day and some kind of free market, do whatever you want. But the thing that I'm very wary about is the uneasy bedfellows in that coalition, because the whole rural part of the country, the anti-tech, anti-university, against a number of things that a lot of these tech folks voted for him. So I think you got to think about how long will this uneasy relationship last? And at what time will the other side, the mass population side that voted him into power, say, what are you doing? What about us? What about the coal mines? What about all these other things that have nothing to do with the free market?
Now we're going down that other rabbit hole, and I have quite a lot to say about that. But
let's not go there. Let's not go there. But let's just say, from the tech side, I think there's about a 1-year tech honeymoon, and then there may be a reckoning. So that would be my take.
Maybe. I think Elon's gonna get himself in there pretty tight. We'll see if he can stand being second banana to Mr. Trump.
And I think you guys know I often, wax philosophically about things like this and tend to have a bit of an umbrella view. So as I was going through the sort of mass psychosis that we've all gone through the last, X amount of years, then now sort of constituted the last couple of days. I was thinking about the massive pendulum swings that our United States goes through in terms of how people react one way and then sort of big business of that era. So go back to the Industrial Revolution and the various sort of moments in time in the couple hundred years of our world that we live in the United States. And the pendulum swings in a certain direction, and then the pendulum swings back. And now we're seeing sort of an odd swinging back, but you can refer to many other generations in time where it will swing back again when things get so out of hand that it can't be sort of managed and controlled.
Maybe we'll see about how the transfer of power goes next time around. But let me just say, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
And, don't be misled by the strength of the stock market. Only 30% of the people in the country own stock. And all I can say is, and this is a completely nonpartisan statement, every time I go to the grocery store and I do most of the shopping in our family, I am stunned. Two little bags of groceries, $100.
Mhm.
So I get slapped in the face with that several times a week. Obviously, I'm fairly sophisticated and understand the nuance, but I don't think most people are. I think most people see that and they're like, motherfucker, someone is responsible for this shit.
Yeah, they just reacted and decided to go to the other side of the pendulum.
And I mean, it's bad. The sticker shock at the grocery store is bad, and I honestly, I think that's what this is about. We can act all sophisticated. I know my wife is segmenting it, saying, "Why did this group do that or that group do that?" But honestly, I think the one thing everybody has in common is that they go to the grocery store and they get frickin' gobsmacked.
Mhm.
And it really doesn't matter if your wages have kept up or whatever, right? The prices at the grocery store don't make that much difference to someone like me. It's just me and my wife. I'm not feeding a family, but still, it's shocking. And so, it's the economy, stupid. And I think, it shows once again the stock market is not a proxy for the daily life satisfaction. So I think that those are all good lessons. The tech companies have put themselves in an interesting position. We've never been in a position where CEOs, particularly tech CEOs, have inserted themselves politically. And that is a really unprecedented situation. And as Roni said, it could be a year and then they're like, holy crow, what did we do? Or it could be they're really going to insinuate themselves in there and Musk is going to help Trump make dramatic changes. In his first term, he didn't have people like that.
I think it'll be longer than a year. I think it'll be, 7 to 10 year cycle, and then we'll see the pendulum swing back the other way. Your point about the cost of goods is, daily goods that people have to consume for themselves and their families is correct. What was sort of, interesting to me is that the talking point around that the Democrats would put efforts into clamping down on that and trying to fix that did not resonate. People didn't buy it. They didn't
No, they
believe it.
didn't buy the thing about the border either. With the Republicans tanked the bill that would have helped close the
Just didn't
border
buy
a
it.
year ago, and they've got no traction with that. Because again, I think that people aren't interested in the nuance.
Yeah.
If Harris was making a scene and screaming like Trump and others did about immigration, maybe I doubt it because again, I think this is something that affects low information voters. If they went to the grocery store before they went to the polls, they would be
Well, well,
pretty angry
well,
at the people in power.
well, Charlie said, let me give you one more. We'll stay on the tech side, but I think something tech CEOs, tech founders, other tech people listen to our podcast, tech investors. Um, One really important thing is to get out of your isolated little world and find ways to extend and connect your company to the more rural other parts of the United States. Right? You can't be just in San Francisco, just in
Mhm.
Chicago. How does your company create jobs in like Minnesota, in Wisconsin, in Mississippi? How do you pull people up and have them participate in what's going on? And I think if the only way to participate is to get a PhD from Berkeley or MIT, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Right. So how does the tech world create an on-ramp
Mm.
for a lot of people? They obviously like America is where you can come and build something great. And I think people want to build. They just don't want to be left behind. So how do you reach out and bring those folks along? I think that is a challenge that will not be solved by the government. Will be solved by like hundreds or thousands of tech founders, tech CEOs.
Well, we'll
That
see.
to me would be really interesting.
Obviously, the pandemic created some of that, people leaving the big tech hubs
Yes.
and moving to less expensive places. So we'll see. Let me hit two news stories and then we'll get to our guest. Um, Mawari, company I think we've talked about before, they're tokenizing, they're doing something to address the issue of streaming XR content, which is very hard to do, requires apps and dual compute kinds of things that Qualcomm often talks about. Instead, they are creating a network of essentially they call them nodes, a network of nodes that would be able to distribute spatial content without an app. And they're tokenizing it so that the people who build the nodes have a way of recouping, right? So they're democratizing their business to that extent. They still raised almost $11 million. So I know these guys. I'm happy for them. They're pretty smart.
Yeah.
And they've been trying to do this for a while. This is sort of an invisible problem that will become a lot more visible as people start carrying glasses around and experiencing more latency.
Yeah.
So, other news stories. So that was the biggest, I think, tech story of the week. Australia is threatening to um, regulate. They've introduced legislation that would force tech companies to regulate the age of their users. I don't know how they would verify that, but they're trying to take phones away from 16-year-olds. That would be really healthy. Good luck to them. And then Google accidentally previewed Jarvis, which is going to be a serious, serious Android competitor to Siri.
Hmm.
And it probably will launch before Siri, it looks like, because now they're
Hmm.
saying smart Siri. You know, Apple's slowly rolling out. They just launched 18.2, slowly rolling out their AI features. And I think Siri is gonna go last. Supposedly, it's gonna have a Chat GPT feature. Meta, I just was at an event for Meta, and they gave me the Meta 2 glasses. I haven't been able to make the AI work on my old Meta 2 Ray-Bans. And but last night they gave me a fresh pair and it works great and it's mind blowing. It's
Yeah.
really mind blowing.
Interesting.
It's
Yeah.
everything I've said about combining sensors and AI on glasses as a frame. So ironically, I'm going to end up wearing glasses again just as a platform for AI, which I predicted was going to happen. And I love when I predict shit that turns out to be correct.
Hey,
Although predicting that people are going to get intimate with AI agents did not take any particular genius on my part. Yes, Rowdy.
I was going to say, Charlie and Ted, I think what's really interesting about the Google AI versus Siri and some of the other things happening from OpenAI, if you're a founder out there listening, I think there's an opportunity to build an AI free computer and an AI free AR system and an AI free phone. And the reason I'm saying that is in their eagerness to supply you AI, the business model of all these companies is to grab everything from you. And some people are just not going to want to have a phone that hears and listens and sort of absorbs all of you into the whole operating system. It's going to become a problem for a lot of
I
companies, for
so want to do
enterprises.
that. Here, take my privacy. I so want to do that. I don't think anybody's going to give
You
me.
don't care?
Not really. They've already got me. What I'm not telling them anything they don't know. All right,
I
so we have a great guest, Alex Masharov. He's the guy who sold his AI company to Snap, and then he has left Snap to start a generative AI company called Higgsfield, which is based and pretty wonderful. I've met him a couple months ago in San Francisco and asked him to come on the podcast.
Great.
So great guest. He's been around. Not too many people have kind of been around the block on AI. Everybody's kind of getting started or has been doing it for a year or so. So here's somebody who saw AI coming way before most people.
Well, and as he tries to sign in, here he comes. Yeah, there we go.
Alex,
Hi.
welcome to the show. I don't know if you've met Ted before, and Roni Abovitz is with us via
Hi.
mobile. And that explains why his sound is a little bit off today, but we can hear him okay. Anyway, great to see you. I was just talking to my co-hosts about your background, having created the AI company that was sold to Snap, and I guess is the basis for Snap AI, and then you've started Higgsfield. So we're interested in hearing about all those things. But first of all, how are you? Where are you?
I'm in South Bay, Los Gatos, the place which became my home.
Where were you from originally? Where was your original home?
I was born in Russia in a city called Chelyabinsk. So this is a city right between Europe and Asia. This is pretty depressive city. A lot of manufacturing are there, and it's sort of Russian Detroit.
Interesting.
So generally people try to escape from this city And there are only two ways, which I know about. One is through science and technology, and second is through hockey. So typically every Stanley Cup winner has someone from Chelyabinsk or from the region.
Wow.
We noticed definitely a trend from parts of Russia, really difficult parts to live, depressed parts of Russia, and parts of Eastern Europe that have a propensity to become very successful entrepreneurs in the United States and then worldwide. So it sounds like you are one of those people that has found a way through your science and technology background to build a successful business that exited, and now you're on to another one. And that what about your background brings that to life and the people around you?
Yeah, totally. So I'm only on my path to become successful entrepreneur. There were maybe a few stepping stones which I successfully achieved, but there is a long road ahead of me, definitely. So my parents are professors of mechanical engineering. Obviously, they were extremely depressed after Soviet fell apart. And basically, since Soviet fell apart, my parents were telling me that the only place in the world where science is appreciated is actually Bay Area, where like scientists and technologists can truly thrive. Obviously, there are great places like Caltech and many other places in America as well. But in the Bay Area, there is a great way to capitalize on the technology knowledge and build a business out of this, right? So I did participate a lot in sports programming competitions. I reached top 10 in the world. This is typically what all the kids from Russia, India, and China are doing to get recognized by large companies. I got offer from Facebook, but the visa situation kind of deteriorated in 2013, 2014 after Russia annexed Crimea. So I wasn't able to get sponsored Facebook visa to get to the United States. So I had to do my startup. I did my previous startup. We had most of people in Ukraine and Russia, and we sold this company to Snap. And this was the way for me to get to California.
So there was a real impetus to drive you toward this. Like you saw a way to move this forward, and you activated it.
Yeah, totally. Back then, I remember that 2015. It was clear to me that mobile is going to become the next computing platform. And so all these like artificial intelligence stuff is going to move to mobile as well. And back then, like AI was drastically underhyped. So we built a framework which allows to run these neural networks in real time on mobile devices. So we optimized like by 1,000 times. And then it enabled real-time face effects, like which make people to look like anime character, like cartoon character, which adds these emotions to face, like happy person, sad person, and so on. And these these face filters went extremely viral on Snapchat. They contributed very significantly to growth, especially in developed markets. Because we know that in the United States, there is a very fierce competition for eyeballs. And these filters definitely help to kind of refresh people knowledge that Snap has these augmented reality features.
So a question, this is Roni. So it sounds like you were very early in like quantizing, compressing, and pushing models more to the inferencing side and the big training. Is that sort of, am I reading it right?
Totally. I mean, we did all these optimizations way before it was popular. I can maybe dive a little bit more specific. So previous generation like of iPhone, like iPhone 6s, it was pretty good. It had the same performance capability as some consumer GPUs, but the problem was memory. So we had to kind of develop new type of architectures which are really small so that it all fits into the memory, because memory operations are the slowest. But the key for us was to figure out how to make it to work in a way that we can run the same neural net several times and improve outputs. That's very similar to diffusion models. So we kind of had this concept back 2017, but obviously it wasn't as good as the diffusion model, but it was good enough to sell company to Snap, and it was good enough for consumers. And diffusion models, they kind of bring this concept to the whole new level. And now we can see that likely in the next 3 years, 90% of pixels will be AI generated.
Very interesting. So you were like, if you think about the trend now in like AI, it's like, I think the training wars might be ending, but it's like the inferencing wars. And if you're not an AI geek yet, this is a good show to listen to. But it sounds like you were very early there. And how do you relate that to what you're doing now?
This is a really good point. So first of all, I want to say that I agree with you that training wars are over, meaning that the players are already determined. We know that training of top LLMs like Llama 3 costs well over $100 million. And the recent generation of video generation models cost around $50 to $100 million in training. So, and it's likely that video generation models and language generation models will be trained successfully on 10 times more GPUs. So my bet is that in the next 6 months, we will see a model with the cost of training around $1 billion. So I think this cuts out everyone and possibly even OpenAI, because Google and Facebook, they have money printing machines. Elon Musk just is able to find funds every like from many different places, so he can probably compete, but most other companies probably cannot compete. So I think we will get to the points that where efficiency is critically important. So today it costs around 30 cents to generate a 5-second long video, which is insanely expensive. So like I think this is really what will slow down the industry. That's why developing efficient inference solutions is something which can democratize video creation.
I think a lot of our listeners would be interested in your educational background. Like, how did you develop this skill base in the place where you grew up that was probably very difficult to find that collegiate sort of like, where were your mentors? How did you learn how to become an AI expert and start to build these systems that eventually you were able to build a company and a backstory that made sense to a US entrepreneurial company like Snap?
Totally. So thank you. First of all, I need to maybe do like a very brief introduction of how how the landscape in Russia works. So
yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to our listeners to hear that.
So it is basically primarily it is a Soviet system of education, and which actually tells us which actually leads to pretty strong math and physics education, but zero computer science education. Roughly, I'm being like I'm a little bit like exaggerating, but I think this represents state of things. So there are only 2 or 3 companies in Russia which are competitive in global landscape. Those companies are Yandex, Sber, and VK. So Sber is sanctioned, so they are cut out of the competition. So VK is sort of sanctioned as well. So we can say it's only Yandex who is truly competitive today, who is able to develop their own models. So yeah, what Yandex is doing in Russia is completely different to the way how like large companies operate here. Yandex has their own labs in each university, in each college, basically. This helps them to filter the best talents early on, and they get the best junior engineers every year, and they educate them for their tasks. Yandex core business is actually search. That's why and translation. These pieces, because like these pieces are pretty directly connected to each other. That's why Yandex is really good in like big data, and Yandex is pretty good in neural networks. I was fortunate to work on Yandex Translator. So back 2014, I was one of the few people who actually got like hands-on experience with deep neural networks.
Mm.
And today we can see that a lot of talent from Yandex works for companies like Poolside or Perplexity, especially when it's related to like web crawling and analyzing large amounts of data. But I was primarily interested in computer vision because to me, this is the most ambiguous space where it's hard to determine the quality. And I mean, and this was always like a challenge, which kind of slows down the space, which sort of slows down the space. So very often in video generation, we develop additional neural networks which help to determine if the video or image is consistent, if it is aesthetically pleasant, and so on. And I started to work on this on my own, basically on 2016. Luckily to me, it was very early. So there were just a few papers, a few researchers in the world who were working on this. And it was very easy to keep up with that. But the difference with the United States is that there were like basically no labs in Russia which were doing like computer vision at top level. The only exception is maybe Viktor Limpitsky, but he used to work in Russia for a few years. He's a very famous researcher from University of Oxford. But so he came to Russia for like a few years and then he flew back to the UK. But that's like that's the exception. Other than that, in Russia there is no like world level computer vision scientists. So I had to learn everything by myself. I'm lucky that early in my career, 2018, I met Viktor Shabarov. This is a serial entrepreneur with a great experience in mobile apps, which definitely helped us to make my previous startup successful and which helped to sell this. But so this definitely, and Viktor was my mentor when I was in Snapchat. So we worked side by side over 5 years. We worked side by side. He used to be like a C-level exec at Opera as well. So he developed this business mindset, which I learned from him. In the same time, on the technology side, I pretty much had to learn by myself, I think.
It's really interesting to hear that backstory because, from our perspective in the United States, we make these assumptions that the other parts of the world, the other parts of the universe are sort of completely different than ours. But what you just described is how we describe public-private partnerships in universities here in the United States, where like an MIT or a Stanford are really good examples of that, where they will bring in and external companies want to be involved in the university model to find the talent, to cultivate the talent and cultivate the ideas. Very often the universities get a little piece of the action here in the United States. I don't know if that is the same in Russia, but they can profit from the ideas that come from the students and from the student bodies. It's interesting.
Yeah, this is a really great question, and I really appreciate that you brought this up. I think this is a very important topic, which I think people don't have enough appreciation for the intellectual property system developed in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very important to uncover today. So first of all, I think I need to explain why most of successful entrepreneurs coming from Russia never incorporate companies in Russia. Political risks is only one thing. And we obviously all understand, and war in Ukraine is terrible. And in the same time, there is another aspect, which is intellectual property. Like Russia doesn't follow UK law, and Russia doesn't follow United States intellectual property law. That's why what we're seeing is that most of successful companies from, let's say, Eastern Europe, they're actually incorporated in Cyprus. Because Cyprus is pretty cheap country and they're under the UK law umbrella, basically. So in Russia, it's virtually impossible to kind of share IP with university, and such stories like Google are simply impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Stanford famously owned like 1% of Google or close to that, because Google was partially developed based on the research made in Stanford. I think that's the story which I heard.
That's correct.
And I think it's just impossible in Russia. And I think this is the reason why universities in Russia are basically considered to be just donors of talents for large corporations. And universities themselves don't lead to innovations. And I remember that my mother was explaining this to me when I was 15 years old. So like, it's like, unfortunately, this was always the case. Now it's 2025. It's almost there. So like 15 years ago, my mother was telling me exactly the same thing, and it didn't change. So, and I think people in the United States have to be grateful for pretty well-balanced systems developed in the country.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. Question about Snap. So you joined Snap, you were with them for a decent amount of time. What can you tell us about their AI capabilities and how they're shaping up against Meta, which has made such a huge step forward with their models and integrating them with their social media platform?
This is a really great question. And I would like to refer to kind of publicly available information and
yes.
just
we're not looking for secrets. We're looking for the 10,000 foot view.
Totally. So look, I think one of the things which are important to mention is that ByteDance today, if we just go today to Google Trends, we'll find out that ByteDance face filters are more popular than Snapchat face filters and Meta face filters combined. I think that's just an important piece, and I think now I want to explain why. So reportedly, TikTok bought like tens of thousands of GPUs before everyone else. So, and they actually use tens of thousands of GPUs in production. So they are able to subsidize GPUs at scale for the sake of growth. I think this is something which Meta started to do recently, because they put their Llama everywhere, but ByteDance was doing this 2 years ago. I think that's very important to highlight. So Snap is in a very different position. I refer just to their recent earnings call where they reported profits, which is truly extraordinary for
Snap reported profits? I did not hear this.
I think this is the only time. I think it's the only time in the last 8 years.
Exactly. The only time in the last 8 years. So you can imagine that Snap, it's probably difficult for Snap to lean heavily in AI, right? Because like when the company doesn't have enough, Snap just cannot subsidize the usage. And then I think it comes really to the points where we will see divergence of applications of AI. Some applications are going to go to mass consumers, and I think Meta and ByteDance are going to win in this space. Snap just doesn't have enough GPUs to do this. And another space is creator space. Unfortunately, today, I'm not aware of single generative AI product made specifically for creators. There are some good applications like maybe Opus Clip and Captions, which help with some types of videos, but it is still not truly, but it's like using technology of the previous generation. We have not yet seen great applications of generative AI for creators, and I think this is a massive opportunity for Snapchat.
I also think, Charlie, it's important to note that if you dig into the Snap profitability moment, apparently it's a bit of a flim-flam thing, because they made their profit off the interest of the money that they had in the bank from.
Oh, I see. I see.
They haven't actually made a profit as a company. Yeah. Fascinating. And
they must have all their money in Amazon and Meta.
Yeah, they have capital, right? So they invest it, and it returned a profit because the stock market went up, right? So
hey, whatever it takes, guys, whatever it takes.
But Alex, I mean, from your perspective, because you've got such an interesting.
Wait. Before you go there, part of what's driving Meta's incredible run up in their stock price has been the fact that AI solved their advertising problem, where they were hemorrhaging money to TikTok. In fact, their global numbers were down for the first time since Facebook launched. And so that's what originally tanked their stock. People blamed the metaverse, but it was really more about Apple and a decline in users and in ad sales for the first time. And they solved that with AI, and they solved it bigly. So Apple not allowing following is nothing to them now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, their sales are increasing again.
Yeah, there are a few
So
points.
I would think if I were Snapchat, that's the way I'd be using AI, because Snap should be making as much money as Meta given their level of engagement and their number of users. They have 1/4 the number of users that Meta has. Okay, they're not as big as Meta, but they don't make 1/4 of the money. If they made 1/4 of the money, they would be worth billions of dollars more.
Totally. This is fair assessments. Here, I would like to maybe just say that the models which are used in advertising are very large. And one of the most important things in recommendation and advertising as well is actually speed of signal propagation. Let me try to explain what this means. So it actually means if something gets popular, it has to take minutes so that it is shown to all relevant people. Minutes. We talk about minutes. I think this requires a very reliable infrastructure. And you are right. AI is able to solve advertising challenges. And it also to make this to happen, it is required to have reliable infrastructure which can run at like scale of hundreds of millions of users and really make sure that these signals about emerging consumer behaviors or micro trends are like processed within minutes. I think for the most of the companies in the world, we talk about hours. And the reason why ByteDance and Facebook are so successful is because they reduced this from hours to minutes. So it actually means that I can share a little bit specifics about ByteDance. So they're serving videos in the batches of 6 or 7 videos. And whatever person is doing in the if you are watching first batch of videos, your behavior is going to directly impact what will be served you in the third batch of videos. I think that's very important. So the speed of signal propagation, the signal of signal distribution, signal processing is just extraordinary. I think this work is not covered in scientific papers. People don't talk about this enough. And I think this, in the same time, this is what makes Meta money printing machine, while Snap is barely profitable.
Right. Right. So let's move on to a second now, because we've only got about 10 minutes left in our interview, or our chat, I should say, because not really, we don't think of it as an interview. So let's talk about Higgsfield and your new company and how you came to found it and moved to San Francisco, and now what Higgsfield does and what hopefully it will become.
Yeah, so this is thank you for bringing for a lot for
Yeah, that's the reason we're here, but your background is fascinating.
So back when I was in Snap, I realized that the video is becoming the main medium on the internet. We have seen that videos have much more engagement than images, and internet bandwidth is not a problem. I mean, even if we talk about emerging countries, India, Indonesia, Brazil, Russia, and so on, internet connection got pretty good there. So video is de facto the way how people consume information today. And roughly speaking, half of the consumption actually happens on mobile phones. In the same time, we have not seen media formats developed specifically for mobile. One of the few notable exceptions in this space is actually a company called Playrix, which was one of the pioneers of hyper-casual games, right? So hyper-casual games is sort of a unique media format designed specifically for mobile, which probably is like very huge on mobile and not very large on desktop, in my opinion. So, and this happens and this format was only created when mobile era just began. Now, we believe that there is a great opportunity to create new media format designed specifically for mobile, which is like interactive stories, or we can call these gamified videos. So there are some applications like chapters and episodes which do interactive stories, but for images. There are some companies which are doing mobile-first videos, and short drama is booming in the United States. In China, it is already it is already $5 billion market, making 70% of their overall movie production markets. So in the United States today, it is $1 billion markets growing 10x year over year. So if the trend continues, we will see this market becoming $10 billion. While it is clear that AI can enhance the experience by allowing people to choose how the story develops. We at Higgsfield, we committed to developing the best, like, personalized video experiences. And just recently, we developed the technology which unlocks long-form video generation. I think this made us willing to actually try AI-generated short dramas. What we have seen that AI-generated short dramas have higher completion rates and engagement metrics than non-AI generated. So, and this is maybe the lowest, and this is the lowest tier of content, because like short dramas, they are very primitive. It's only like
explain to me what you mean by short drama. How short, how many shots, and do the shots match?
So totally, yeah. So it has to be a consistent story for 100 minutes, split into 100 episodes.
Wait. You're talking about stories 100 minutes long?
Yes, yeah.
I thought you were talking about social media content.
So these are like full feature films you're talking about.
How the fuck can you do that? That's bonkers.
Oh, we might have lost him just at the moment of excitement.
He froze.
Yes.
Oh, he's back. He's back. He got too excited.
You're breaking up a little bit. For those of you who are listening, I'm ready to jump through the screen.
Look, I think, I was working on this problem for the last 9 years, and this was the main premise behind Higgsfield. We developed this technology, but obviously technology, we like regular consumers don't care if that's AI generated or not.
No.
What actually matters if people are willing to watch the contents, and this was the most important thing for us, is to make sure that these AI generated short dramas have the same engagement rate, the same watch rate, completion rate as non-AI generated content. So we're really excited that we got this early proof points that AI generated content can actually deliver value.
Alex, let me ask you a question. Like in South Korea, they have all these like low cost anime. South America, you have like Televisia, the telenovas. Are you thinking like these sort of for mobile, like narrative things, but like kind of that are approaching the low budget stuff? Or do you think like what you're doing is going to approach like Spielberg, James Cameron level, Peter Jackson level? Like where are you aiming with this?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So I would say that I think here we need to go really deep, to be honest, but I think that's very important. And I think that's really important. So my key learning about, so what is truly, generative AI is exciting, but there is more exciting stuff on the consumer behavior parts, which I would like to cover. Because for a very long time, people tried to follow people whom they know. Instagram was built because people wanted to follow creators. Then Snapchat was built around close friends. And TikTok and ByteDance, they introduced this concept of like watching videos of random people. Short dramas and telenovels, they bring this to the next level, where they produce an insane amount of content. And this category is only growing and booming. And no one knows who is scriptwriter for this content. No one knows the actors and in these drama contents. So consumer behavior actually changes. Consumers care less today about like famous people. They just care about the content. So this is a nice opportunity for AI to combine, to kind of generate the content which people want to watch, right?
So we're not talking about a 100-minute feature film. We're talking about trying to create engaging social media content.
Yeah.
It could do a 100-minute feature film, but your platform, Higgsfield, it sounds like, is really being built for this enormous audience of social media content creators.
I would say we're doing everything we can to build a platform where the video is generated on a fly. So you can think about this as AI generated YouTube. And the main differentiation over the time is going to be the level of personalization, as people can become themselves.
So you could make a feature film. This is what the Golden Key did, Ted. Are
Yes.
you aware of the Golden Key?
Golden Key. Let me
They won at South by Southwest 2 years ago with a project that involved a rack of NVIDIA cards running locally stable video. And they were prompting stable video to tell fairy tales because it knew those very well. And so it would generate these 1-2 minute stories that were completely bonkers. They didn't make any sense, but like all of AI, it triggered a huge sense of nostalgia, like you've seen it and heard it before. And
Totally.
so as a result, it won, and they're doing other exhibitions. It's crazy expensive to do it because that rack needs a 220 electric coming in because he has to run air conditioners. He has to run 2 air conditioners in addition to this rack of computers, but the effect is extraordinary. And you could see how they could take the gold key and generate hours and hours of YouTube content, and that people would actually watch it.
Totally.
Like a Yule log, they would watch it. And if you could personalize it and put yourself into that video, I think people would watch it like cats, watching a mouse hole. So, to me, I think you're really on the right track with this. And so Ted, I'm so intrigued by this. I called up the Gold Key guys.
Yeah, you
and said, what are you guys doing? Because I have an idea for you to create social media content. And they said, oh, no, we're not doing that.
Charlie, you know what this is like?
Brooklyn Museum.
Charlie, this is like, it used to be that writing, and reading was the priesthood, and the scribes and the commoner couldn't do it. And making videos and feature films and all these things are in this like kind of priesthood in LA. And I think there's a whole plethora of companies, and what Alex is doing specifically is going to just tear down those walls. I mean, the Huns are going to overrun LA, and I mean that in a metaphorical way, and just make the possibility of making your own friends, your own movie. I mean, everyone sees it. TikTok and YouTube and all these things were precursors, but what Alex is pushing, and I think if we just go forward 10 years, the game's over, right? Alex, you're not at the beginning, you're at the early middle, but Alex, I'd love to hear from you, like 2035, where are we with this? Because if you're someone in Hollywood listening to this podcast, pay attention to Alex's answer.
Totally. So it's going to be 90% of all the content is going to be AI generated. It's going to be highly personalized for the taste. Advertisement is going to be plugged in the videos and generated with AI on the fly. 10% of other content is going to be high quality IP protected content, where you can think that Marvel is going to do, like Disney will be pushed to do like a lot of to push content about their characters every day they will not, because like today they can be lazy and say, oh, we'll be launching every like one movie a year or two movies a year, right? They will be forced to really capitalize on the IP, release stuff every day, sell a lot of merchandise with Marvel, and there will be guys like
Mr. And they'll have to optimize that content for small screens.
Exactly. They will be, and like I think IP holders will grow. They will be like media empires, like, and we talk about Marvels of this world, Disney's of this world. We talk about Jake Paul. We talk about Mr. Beast. You can imagine that there will be nothing. I think it will be hard to be in the middle. Either it's AI generated and highly personalized, or it's a well-established, let's say, creator with very recognizable IP and a business empire around them, including merchandise and including short contents, including long-form contents, and so on.
We have never had anybody on the show, and this is episode like 217, where I feel like saying, I want to work for you.
Thank you. But I think this is the future, and we're trying to be on the other side of the spectrum, probably, where the media is personalized and AI generated.
This is such a big idea. So if I go to the Higgsfield AI website, what can I do today?
So today we have just an alpha program for creators to make the contents. Over the time, we're gonna expand number of creators on the platform, but the goal is to eventually make this more like I would say like a platform where creators come and generate the videos, and which is paired up with the consumption rights, which is paired up with other people, like majority of people who come and just watch the videos and can personalize them for themselves. And over the time, it's gonna rely on AI, and AI will learn deeply about people preferences.
Wow. Well, this has been an incredible conversation, Alex. Thank you so much for coming on our show. I would say I have learned a lot about Higgsfield and the incredible ambition of your company. So totally. I don't know, Ted or Roni, if you have a parting shot here. Otherwise, we'll see you all next weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've delivered all the messages. People should check out Higgsfield AI. It's already up. There's a little temp website. He's on what he's doing and how it's all coming together. I mean, I think Roni touched on it. The ship has already sailed in terms of what media is today versus what it was with YouTube and TikTok and others kind of, being the precursor to what comes next when these more evocative and all-encompassing technologies start to take over this creative process. And the power struggle is in the midst of change and changing again. If you go through what had happened with the strikes with SAG and WGA, this is sort of the old guard trying to keep the new guard at bay, and foregone conclusion, right? I mean, yes, there will still be a Hollywood, there will still be big movies made, there will still be big stars, but the raw economics already with YouTube and gaming compared to the big Hollywood machine has already set the stage for where things are going next. And now we apply this next layer of technology that all the big tech companies are sort of supporting with massive amounts of infrastructure and costing. Here we are, 2025, and to your point, 2035 will be look very interesting.
Roni,
Alex, I was going to say, Alex, you've been a great guest. I think anyone listening, pay attention to this one. This was one of those really interesting podcasts that in 10 years, you heard it here.
Yeah,
absolutely. Alex, hang on. I want to talk to you after we sign off. But meanwhile,
he wants to work for you.
I do. I'm not kidding. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here next week.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.